Hello and welcome. Oh, what a start. Jeez. Sorry, I'm knackered this weekend. It's been a busy weekend, folks. And getting up at 5:45 in the morning, whatever it was, for the England-France game, which was well worth it, definitely hasn't helped with my amount of sleep and what's going on. Oh, look, we haven't even turned on the on-air light. See where we go. On air. Jeez. There we go. Now we're on air, folks. Live coming to you on a Monday at 8 p.m. Talking about all the important stuff in rugby, or anything that we find important, at least anyway. Joining me this evening, I have got both Cornflake and Stephen Harris. We've got the full team has decided to turn up this week, which is good. No injuries, unlike a lot of pre-season injuries to the two rugby teams, which we'll have a look at some of those. But no injuries so far. So, Cornflake. So, good weekend for you. Catch up on the rugby this time.
I caught up on a bit. Yeah, I was just thinking before starting this, I need to think of my controversial phrase to start off this week. But I'll let England have one for a change. My controversial phrase is, for all those rugby fans out there, I put a video out this week. No Caleb Clark, no problems. A shocker from him and the three Moana boys not getting involved in fantasy. You want to be controversial? There we go. I'll say it. Poor taste.
But mentioning fantasy rugby, we do have a league in the fantasy rugby. So let me just ping that link for you into the live chat, folks. So do join us on the official playfantasyrugby.com, which is the Super Rugby one, and that is the link to our Cornflake League for that one, folks. I've got my team set up already. I've seen Cornflake's got a team in there. Mr. Harris, are you a fantasy rugby, a fantasy player or not? And I don't mean fancy in the bedroom, by the way.
Oh no, no, I can't say I am, but I am pretty curious to maybe look at Cornflake's league and
get involved.
Throw up a team myself.
Actually, yeah. So, Cornflake, have you got your team there? We can both run through our teams as part of the show tonight as to who we've got. The reviewers let us know, by the way, that Georgia, Romania, Spain, and Portugal have all qualified for the next Rugby World Cup through the European one. Remember, it's an expanded Rugby World Cup, which is why Europe have got more teams in there this time around. So congratulations to all of them. Look, let's be honest, we've enjoyed Portugal last Rugby World Cup. Spain, it'll be interesting to see how many Spanish players they actually turn up with. Same with Romania. I think there's some dodgy players as well last time. So as in dodgy qualification, by the way, folks, on that one. The season is finished, apparently, so it's nocturnal rights, with the Highlanders beating the Crusaders. So let's just quickly start off by running through the pre-season games from Super Rugby on that one. So yes, we started off on Thursday in the middle of the afternoon, because you know what? Creating an audience is really important. And when everyone's at work is a great time, or everyone's at school is a great time to get people to watch rugby and to build an audience. But the Highlanders beat the Crusaders 29-24 in that one.
It was a stat day. Most people should be off work or school. Come on now.
Oh, okay. To be fair, yes, it was a stat day.
Only idiots like me and you, Paul, work every single day of the week and greedy for money. So the most normal people had the day off, and they took Friday off too, the buggers.
Yes, I was working. So I was busy Thursday. I had a big day Thursday. Actually, so yes, that's why I'm thinking it was a work day. But Stephen Harris, you weren't working, and you did watch it, didn't you? So, any kind of particular highlights you pick out from that game?
Yeah, listen, I thought it was a pretty good performance from the Highlanders, but of course, you temper that a little bit because the Crusaders pretty much rolled another side on in the second half. They scrummed extremely well in the first half, put a bit of pressure on, but listen, I just like the fact that the Highlanders in the second half really created some great opportunities, and some of them from long range as well. So that'll give them confidence, if nothing else, going into that first round.
Yeah, but look, as Simon says, none of the games were on ESPN, but you could watch them on YouTube. And Nocturnal Rights says the Highlanders Crusaders game wasn't even reported in the Southland Times the next day. I mean, that is a bit poor, really. Let's be honest. That should be in the Southland Times for that one. So yes, Major League Rugby apparently has. Let's read through this. Hurricanes saw off the Blues 31-19, which is an impressive scoreline when you consider the Hurricanes' injuries, which we'll go through in a second. I didn't watch that. If either of you guys watched anything you want to say about them, do say. Otherwise, I'll just run through the scores. The Brumbies saw off the Force 45-12. Ulster lost to the Reds 31-38. And Moana Pacifica hosted the Chiefs, losing 19-31 there. So outside of the Hurricanes beating the Blues, I don't think probably any kind of surprises there with those scores. To be honest with you, not so much. The Southern Times had an interview with Scott Barrett instead. Apparently, it's printed in Christchurch nowadays. So there we go. Well, you know what, Southland? Yes, basically South Island, doesn't it? I mean, all the South Island is Southland.
No, it's
Shaky
not.
and disapproval.
No,
I'll add 5 cents on the Mighty Highlanders. That's about. I did see portions of it while I was supposed to be working. So I had it up on the old work PC there, watching it as it went on. Which I will say, I think it was on the Highlanders Facebook page or someone's Facebook page. They did actually live stream it for free. So if you did want to check it out, you just jump on there and you can watch it for free. So I mean. Big props to them for putting that up there, which is good to see. You know, idiots like me who was still working could just chuck it up on a work computer and watch it go through. But to me, on the, I didn't see the full game, but on the passages I did see, to me the Crusaders' issues weren't any different to what they were from last season. They look very much similar to what we saw of the Crusaders in 2024. So that sure the Highlanders took their chances, which is good to see because the Highlanders are typically a team that getting good opportunities and have chances to score with the 3s or 7s and typically let them get wasted. So it's good to see them taking those opportunities. But I think there's more concern for the Crusaders, who I think looked really disjointed, especially throughout their back line. Looked to be a lot of skewed plays and missed passes. And the Highlanders, to their credit, took toll of that, which was, I think, from my aspect, pleasing to see from them to pick that up and grab some points from it. So, yeah, good little match. And did you see how beautiful the weather was? I mean, I don't think it's rained here for about 3 months. The ground is brown. I feel like I'm living in Central Otago now. It's just sunny every day. It's beautiful.
I'm gonna add a couple of cents to that as well. Speaking of that stream, it was covered by the Pits TV, who I've got to say I've never heard of, but they did actually a really excellent job in terms of the pictures that were actually coming out of Rugby Park in Invercargill, and I thought, listen, big props to them for doing a good job. A couple of little mentions though from that Highlanders game. I had to just refer back to my notes. That's what happens when you get a little bit older. You've got to refer to notes that you've written down from the day before. And Caleb Tangitu, absolutely impressive. And I think I hear the Highlanders have had a couple of injuries. Jonah Nariki is out for about 3 weeks to a month, rolled ankle, I believe. Caleb Tangitu, I thought was very, very good. Made some pretty good line breaks. A couple of them should have resulted in tries, and boy, really looked the part. Now, I thought the other thing that I really, really liked was the actual combination of Timosi Tavatawanawe and also Taniela Tilia in the midfield as well. Boy, if these two guys can get front foot ball, they will take a bit of stopping as well. And I thought the other plus, listen, Cam Miller just seems to be finding his feet as a first 5 as well. And those were the little things I took out of it. I did write down here, as per what Cornflake said, Crusaders attack in the second half. Admittedly, they'd pull some guys off, but I thought it was really clunky. And you're right, some of the disconnect you saw was shades of 2024. And I see, speaking of injuries, all of a sudden they've got an injury crisis at prop as well, from what I can believe. So, boy, we haven't even started the competition, but it might be last man standing come the end of the season.
Yes, absolutely. That's so. And on that point, let's move forward then into the news then. The Blues have lost Sam Darry for the entire season. Obviously breakout season last year for him, making it into the All Blacks. So that's apparently a shoulder injury during training. Also, the Crusaders will be missing Cody Taylor, who has tweaked his hamstring, so he's out for the first couple of rounds of that as well, depending, obviously, we'll see how he returns from that one. The Braden Enor has hurt his hand. His availability will be clearer after he visits surgeon this week. So Braden Enor, who I think has missed the last 2 seasons through injury, looks like it's not getting any better for him either. Looking at the Hurricanes, Devon Flanders has broken his leg apparently, so he's now a long-term another long-term person missing from there. So the Hurricanes are going to be missing Tyrrell Lomax, Asafar Amua, Ruben Love, Devon Flanders, Brett Cameron, Lucas Cashmore as well. So a whole bunch of players are missing for the for the Hurricanes in that one. So that's the kind of injury news I've spotted. Any of those particular ones you want to particularly talk about, or anybody that or any that I've missed in injury news?
Yeah, seriously, bad luck for Devon Flanders. I understand it was a training accident to break your ankle, really. You got to feel for the guy. I've actually been handed some information with regards to New Zealand under-20s lock Cam Christie, who was selected by the Blues. Now, he had three bouts of concussion in 2024, and he's still suffering symptoms. So there's a good chance that we may not see Cam Christie in the part of the Blues this year. Of course, we already heard before Sam Derry is pretty much out for Super Rugby, and of course the Blues got a little bit of a crisis at hooker at the moment as well. Nathaniel Pule was playing hooker for the Blues on Friday's game. But some real concerns for the Blues, especially in the second half. They rolled out their supposed top side in the second half, and you kind of expected them to roll over the Hurricanes, but it didn't happen. If anything, the Hurricanes powered away in the second half. And some really, really good early season form from Peter Lakai as well, and Duplessis Karifi. Those guys so good at the breakdown. I kind of looked through the Auckland Sevens, and I know Dalton Papali is not playing at the moment, but boy, I don't see an immediate answer in there. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of side Vern Cotter names for that very first game against the Chiefs coming up. But injuries galore at the moment, and it might be a case we might see some watered down teams even in week 1 of Super Rugby.
Yeah, so the Blues going to miss Akira Iwani. Look, he was not an automatic first choice last year, but look, you're still talking about an All Black level player in your squad. At the very least, they'll be missing him from depth. Yes, he is, as much as we can talk about him and as being not the best trainer, and not looking like the most active player and getting involved in too much aggro. But still, he was still a decent player, even if we didn't rate him at the very top end of Lucy's. Moving on then from injuries, I'm sure we'll be talking about that every week from now on. Apparently, Morocco have eliminated Tunisia out of the Rugby African qualifiers for the Rugby World Cup. So thank you, Simon, for keeping us up to date with all of that kind of stuff, and they will be in the main African tournament. So basically, the Six Nations equivalent for Africa, whatever that is called nowadays. I've got no idea. Obviously, South Africa don't take part in that one because they would walk it. They play in the Rugby Championship instead. In other news closer to home, just across the ditch, Joe Schmidt has said he will not be. He has extended his contract to go from the end of the Lions, the British Irish Lions tour, through the Rugby Championship, but that he'll be leaving the Wallabies post after that. So he will not be going on. He'll not be in charge come the November or the end of year tours up to Europe. Now that is obviously real shame for the Wallabies. But look, I think there was a lot of people expecting something like this could be on the cards with his family situation. So look, wish him and his family the best, and totally understand why he's done it. But boy, oh boy, he'll be missed by the Wallabies. You've got to feel.
That's a big loss. That's a huge loss. I think he was doing a really good job with them. I thought he was building something nicely, but I do agree with you. I'm not surprised. It always kind of looked like it was just a matter of time before, he was only there to kind of, I guess, stem the bleeding a little bit, wasn't it? Because it was all, it was hemorrhaging that the Wallabies were just at sea. They needed someone to step in and steady the ship, as the old saying would go. So, hey, he's done a good job. I feel like they should have done more to keep him there longer, but like you say, personal things clearly more important to him, which, fair play to him. I think he's done a great job. I think he's a great coach, and wherever he goes next, whether it's somewhere back here in New Zealand, he'll be a massive, massive asset. So hopefully the Wallabies can get someone who can pick up what he's built, because I do feel like over the last 12 months, they've definitely been improving, and I am expecting good things from him in the Super Rugby this year. So another, will it be about another 12 months with him at the helm? I think, they should be, hopefully, they'll definitely be in a lot better shape than they were 12 months ago. But hopefully you can keep the trend up and, get someone to carry on that recovery.
Well, no, I mean, it's only up until October. So only about another 8 months before we get a new coach in there. So, as the reviewer says, Ronan O'Gara for Wallabies coach, he has apparently stated his interest in the role. So if we will see if he does get picked up for that one. Obviously, you've also got Stephen Larkham, Les Kiss, I've got who the other sort of Super Rugby coach in Australia is, but they are obviously those names have also been banded around as possible replacements as well. I mean, Big Vern Cotter at the Blues. I mean, look, he's got international experience with Scotland and Fiji, so I would expect him to be available and on the market for that kind of role. So it's not totally devoid of names that can step in there.
We're missing one though. What about the fact that the Leicester Tigers are departing ways with one Michael Cheika at the end of the 24-25 season? That seems too Wallabies to me. I think they need to move in a new direction, but it just screams of like, hello, here's an option. We know that.
I heard that one. I thought, no, don't go. Don't. You never go back. Okay. There's a reason.
Okay,
for the break.
Jones. Okay.
Guys, I don't think we can underestimate the personal reasons why Joe's not continuing with this job. Of course, his son was diagnosed with epilepsy, and I know it's a tough one for a family. The Australian Rugby Union, from what I believe, even gave him the option of coaching from in New Zealand, but he said no. I want to be hands-on. So yeah, it's a tough one. So I don't think we can underestimate that situation. I think he'll put some plans in place for this team moving forward, and I think it's really important that whoever they bring in, somebody who's got the same vision and got the same communication as Schmidt does with these Wallaby players. You mentioned Cheika before. Yeah, whilst he's a good coach, he's shown that he's a good short-term coach. Those short-term jobs, although you could say it's questionable, his short-term stay maybe at Leicester coming up.
But maybe that's perfect then. 2 years until or less than 2 years to the Rugby World Cup. Get him in on to the Rugby World Cup. Just don't extend him after that.
I'd like to get someone in like now. Make the change now and have them in the atmosphere, in the systems, and try and gel that move together. Like have the same thought pattern from the going out to the coming in. And to me, that like Cheika doesn't fit that bill. Like those other names you meant, like the Kiss and the Larkhams and stuff like that, guys that are going to not come in and obviously have that experience, be like, this is my team now, that are going to want to kind of blend with the way the team is now, that's going to be a better fit. And, having make the call during Super Rugby, over the next 6 to 10 weeks, then make your call near the end of the season, and then have that going in together through that next, what will be 6 months or 4 or 5 months that will be together through that rugby championship period, and go from there. And just, instead of having such a harsh, like, I'm finished, now I'm starting, and it just, so much change. If it just gelled together nicely, I think it'll do them good.
Not too much thinks those kids. There's less kids at Reds. You've got Dan McKellar. That was the name I'd forgotten at the Waratahs, and then obviously I've gone blank now as the player at Larkham at the Brumbies as well. So if you're doing that transition one, then you're looking at one of those three. Really, aren't you expecting one of those three probably? But don't forget, I guess Rog, if he was going to move, would move at the end of the top 14 season, which would be in that kind of that June, July kind of windows when he'd become available. So again, you could have some sort of handover there as well, if it was Rog. So look, I think the positive thing is we've got some proper names being mentioned. It's not like they were just sat there going, "Oh shit, everyone's got contracts. Who's left?" There are a few names out there which I think is a bit, which is unusual at this point of the Rugby World Cup cycle, really, as well. So I think that's the main pieces of news. So shall we look back at the last weekend and go through the Six Nations games that we had? Kicking off then, unless you guys got some other news I've missed.
Nope, not from me.
Nope. There we go. Quite a quiet news week, really. So kicking off then into the weekend, Italy versus Wales, and as you can tell by the title of the show this week, the weather dictates terms. Boy, oh boy, the first two games were wet games. It was definitely wet for Italy versus Wales, and you can tell that just by looking at the stats. 50 kicks from hand by Italy, 41 by Wales, nearly 100 kicks. That's over a kick a minute. So boy, oh boy, winning the kicking duel was important. At 22-15, with that losing bonus point for Wales, you might think this was actually an even contest. It wasn't really. Italy dominated this. The problem was they kept on taking penalties, taking threes, rather than actually pushing for that try. There were, again, Wales gave up 14 penalties in this, Italy 11. The whistle, but the whistle was definitely blown. And on top of that, we had another 13 scrums as well, of which only one was for Wales. The other 12 were for Italy, which suggests that the Welsh handling wasn't great. But when Italy lost 5 of those 12 scrums, if I was a Welsh player and I was a bit tired, I'd just knock it on deliberately and go, "Hey, let's have a scrum, 50-50 chance of getting the ball back." Italy's scrum was not working that well in this one. But yes, it was wet. The handling wasn't great. But Italy did the right thing and really just kept the pressure on Wales. You didn't really see where, until the last sort of 20 minutes, you didn't really see where Wales was going to score any points. To be honest with you, there was nothing there. Italy just controlled the game very well in wet weather rugby, and I say probably and should have taken more points. Really, they did. Yes, they did the right thing, not putting over those threes to build your scoreboard, but Wales didn't. But with Aaron Wainwright's scoring on 69 minutes. And then having the penalty try, boy oh boy, there were some nervous moments then for Italy. I see you nodding away there, Cornflake.
This game just was very much Wales of last year for me. They don't know how to attack. They have no penetration. They have players overrunning other players. Like that poor young chap playing at 10 for Wales, Ben Thomas. I feel sorry for him. When he gets the ball and he decides he wants to do something a little bit special and everyone else is running all in front of him and then he just gets swamped by 5 Italians. Yeah, he really lacks confidence, as does most of his rest of his back line. But yeah, they just didn't look like they were going to find or know where their real attacking points were going to be. And yeah, they didn't really play to the weather. I feel that well. Josh Adams had a bit of a nightmare out wide. It's funny with Wales, isn't it? It's either Rio Dyer or it's Josh Adams, and one of them always has an absolute shocker that just got emphasised by the fact he got that yellow card later on as well. But man, they tried desperately hard, and it never really worked. And if you're going to give any credit to Wales here, you say, "Yeah, well done. You got back into to get a bonus point." And they gave Italy 30 seconds of second thoughts and doubts. So we'll give a little bit of credit to Wales for coming back late there, but Italy were in control all the way through that. That Capazzo try was very freakish. He's just a little nuggety talent. I just enjoy watching him play so much. But the experience of guys, especially Tommaso Allen off the tee, and just in those halves, when you've got Garbisi running your show, you've got experienced midfielders who just kind of know what they're doing. And I feel that that's critical for a team like Italy. When you've got players who know their roles and have confidence of others around them, it makes a big difference. But yeah, closer than it should have been. And for that, you give a little nod there to Wales and say, okay, the last 5 minutes weren't bad.
Actually, those kicks out that Josh Adams did just spill, I mean, there were two of them at least, does show that they can actually score tries. The problem is they just need the execution there. So to be fair, that's more attacking than we've seen for a while from them, those kicks. They don't
find anything through midfield, though, or through defensive lines. It's either getting on the outside or over the top. I think over the top very much was a trend of this weekend's Six Nations. That was the way to go. And I think we saw in all of these games, going across or just any sort of depth in a kick, definitely troubled. I think that second wave of defence, the fullback and the wingers dropping back, I think in all games were caught out a number of times. So it definitely was an emphasis I think teams will be looking at in future.
Stephen Harris, your thoughts?
Oh, listen, I can't add too much in terms of what's already been said at the minute. All I can add on the world rankings, Italy are 10th, Wales are 11th, and that's what you got.
Yeah,
unfortunately, the conditions didn't help either of these two teams, but you pretty much said it. Pretty much at the top, Paul. One team kicked better than the other.
Yeah, there's also talk about Wales going below Georgia into 12th, and I think they would have done if they've lost by more than 7 points. But looking at the official rankings, as you say, that they've been updated today. As you say, they are in 11th place compared to Georgia, currently in 12th. So unless it gets changed in the kind of European morning time, yes, currently it does look like so last updated 10th of February, and that's today. And Wales sit 11th. So, but look, they could go south of Georgia. Let's be honest, because this was the one game they might win. Was considered for this tournament. So from that point of view. Next up, then another wet game: England versus France, but not quite so many kicks. I mean, only he says only in inverted commas, 83 kicks in this game. So still over a kick a minute in this one. Looking at some of this, so that's the stats there on the kicking. On the passes, 118 by England to 150 by France. To me, I thought we saw France play a lot wider in this game than we'd seen in the previous week, where everything was just off. Was a short pop pass off Dupont, but they definitely seem to move a bit wider here this week. With that one, I think we perhaps have to see that bit there in the extra passing from them, but their handling really did not pay up for this one. 19 turnovers by France compared to 11 by England, and then again similar on the scrums. 10 scrums for England, which is obviously French knock-ons, to only 5 to France on that way. So yeah, handling definitely let them down in this one as they tried to play more expansively, and the weather conditions said no. There's my Amy Winehouse impersonation, and again, but penalties. The referee got a lot put his West in his pocket for this one though. Only 6 by England and 8 by France. So both sides actually be probably pretty happy with the discipline. I mean, France had three penalties last week, but that's just freakish. The 8 is okay. It's single figures on that one. But I thought the England line-out was definitely a problem for them in this one. But hey, they managed to get themselves a last-minute try by that wonder player who clearly has got many years left in his legs. Elliot Daly, and I only say that because it just winds up to have cornflake with that one. But your thoughts on the games, guys?
No, I want to know, but before, I want to know what the non-professional England fan raging around his house, Paul, thought about this game. Now, that's all your PC stat BS. Now, what's the flag-waving Englishman saying?
Look, I literally looked at this selection and went, what the hell are we doing with Marcus Smith at fullback and Finn Smith at 10? Yeah, Finn Smith, by the way. Corrections corner from last week, where I call him Ollie Smith. Whoops, sorry, folks. Finn Smith. And actually, you know what? I'm now a believer that Finn Smith is the man, and goodbye, Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith makes way more errors than Finn Smith. I think it does. And so I'm starting to think that actually Marcus Smith might be on the way out. I do not see him as a 15. He is either your mercurial 10 or he's not there at all, in my opinion. But look, I was expecting them to lose this one. Let's be honest. And Nocturnal Right's piece in there about English set piece was faultless in the last 20. Yeah, I'm amazed. I did not believe they could win this one. I didn't think they would come back and win it. I thought this was that France had got this, and I'm very, very relieved for England to win. But I am very well aware that France should have put this away in the first half, but their handling just let them down. England got out of jail with this one, rather than putting on a convincing performance to show they're better than France, in my opinion. France just were not themselves in that first half, but I guess it shows. Yeah, you've got to play wet weather rugby, and why they decided to play expansive rugby against England, I've got no idea. England, though, look, we had a more balanced back row, which I was much more happy with. We weren't shooting out the line. We didn't try and be quite so energetic at the beginning of the game like we were the previous weekend against Ireland, and that actually meant we didn't run out of steam. And so hence, I mean, coming back and winning a game is just a miracle for this side, let's be honest. But I mean, calling Finn Baxter a baby-faced assassin, yes, he's got a baby face, but assassins are in the back lines. You do not, a prop is not a baby-faced assassin. You might call him a kind of sort of, I'm not sure, but some sort of baby-faced kind of bludger. But to call him an assassin, I think is wrong. But he does look about 12. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. I think he's had a few too many school dinners. But look, cracking to get the try there from him. I just didn't believe it, to be honest with you. I even when it was happening, I didn't believe it. That puts Borthwick in a much stronger position now, and will shut up all of the critics. But this isn't the game that this isn't the style of this show. Again, look, this shows that the backbone to come back and actually win at the end of a game. But this does not show me the play that tells me the progression of where they're going to go, right? Which I think is what we've seen more from the previous games. This one was all about just grit and we just really don't want to lose, and just kept themselves in there.
I won't steal all the thunder this time. I'll let Stephen go first.
I'll tell you what, that last 10 minutes, it was definitely a case of Finn's up, wasn't it, guys? Finn Baxter getting the try and Finn Smith coming up with the play. I just like.
So when did Finn become a name?
I had no idea. That's it. When has there ever been two Finns in an English team? Probably not. But one thing I will give Finn Smith his dues. That try that he set up for Elliot Daly, boy, the composure just to hold the pass under pressure. The only guy that actually read that was Anton Dupont, but unfortunately for Dupont, he just got there a little bit too late. And it's fair to say on the day, probably Alex Mitchell probably had the better of Dupont. We know creative he can be, but we also saw in this game that he's fallible as well, and he does make mistakes. I mean to say, he dropped the ball with the line open. But what I enjoyed about this England performance was just the work of their loose forwards and having a little bit of impact off the bench as well. Those loose forwards that they've got, they're not overly big, but man, they work so damn hard. And listen, I think for once English rugby were on the right side of the ledger. You think back to the autumn internationals last year. I mean to say, they miss a drop kick and a penalty that's, by modern standards, pretty kickable. You think back to that Australian game, they turned the ball over in the basically when the clock is in the red, and Australia score a try. So, boy, it was going to go their way at some stage. And for me, Paul, it was actually a deserved win as far as I'm concerned. You think back to Ireland last week, where they were so good in the first half, but they had no real knockout blow, and they left the points there. The difference were Ireland were way more clinical last week than what France were. Yeah, sure, France will be kicking themselves, but I think France is one of those sides that everybody talks about. We talk about their depth, we talk about how great their club sides are going in at the moment, but in reality, when sometimes it comes to the big games, they don't always deliver. And I've got to say, full credit to England. I thought it was a spanking game to watch, guys. Really, really enjoyable.
You know what? I told you France would slip up. Didn't I say it 2 weeks ago? I said France will slip up somewhere. They'll have a bit of a brain explosion game. And this wasn't probably a brain explosion, but I feel like they didn't play, like I was talking about, they didn't play the right game plan. In saying that, how fun are they to watch when they do play that sort of game? Like, it's just so good. Like, seeing guys like Belleberry run around, Pinot, little round-the-back passes, and then Dupont just scooping up the ball. They're just so fun to watch. And they make it look so easy and basic and like they know what they're doing, when in actual fact, it's still 50-50 stuff, but it looks like it's 90-10 stuff. And that's just what makes them so fun. But I just don't feel like they got the forward pack plan right. They got outpacked by England, which, hey, England, we know, we've talked about a lot. They've got a very good pack, a young pack, I think a very good future in their pack as well. So, yeah, like you guys have nailed pretty much all I was going to say. I did find that the 10-15 combination really interesting. And I do agree that Marcus Smith, the fullback, he might as well just be a road cone out there, because a lot of the time he was just flapping around like a seagull trying to make some sort of impact. But Finn Smith, like that crossfield kick for I think that was a Freeman try. That to me, that was, he was going left, and his awareness to pivot and stop and turn and go back to the right and put that little kick over the top of Freeman to get up over Belleberry and get that ball. That's the sort of stuff that's typically not seen in an England game. You typically just go with the flow where it's going. George Ford catch and pass or kick. I like seeing that a bit of individual, not brilliance, but it's just smarts, IQ. And I think he brings that good. I think he's very composed. Again, another young 10, right? We're seeing a lot of them in this tournament and a lot of these teams coming through the ranks. So, yeah, great performance by England. It's a shame Elliot Daly scored that last try, but you do notice when he did score that last try, he was the only man on that team to have a white kit. So really, how much have you done, Elliot? Take all the plaudits, but, you hardly even come on the field. But, yeah, great win, great game. And yeah, as expected, France slip up.
Yeah, and that's why I think there was some stats about how Ireland have got more, but some more Grand Slams and all that kind of stuff. And France, just as you say, this don't have that consistency through it to actually nail these things. Remember, Mark Smith did those kick tries against the All Blacks as well. Look, Marcus Smith, as I say, as a 10, if you're going to pick him, you pick him as a 10, and he is a wonderful mercurial 10. But he was also the guy on defence. You're trying to hide him somewhere, and he was definitely, and he was a turnstile for a couple of the Ireland tries because where they're trying to hide him, and so you then put him at fullback, and as you say, I like fullbacks that just do not make mistakes. Maybe they don't have to be the most flashy guy in the world, but they are solid, and that's what That's what I want for my 10. So me, they're trying to find how can we put the attacking talent of Marcus Smith in without exposing the defensive frailties that he brings with him.
I was about to say, I think he might be better suited as maybe an off the bench option as opposed to a starter. I personally, with this England team, would like to see Alex Mitchell, Finn Smith, and when he's back from injury is George Furbank, because what you've actually got there, you've pretty much got a club spine, haven't you? You've got a 9, you've got a 10, you've got a 15, who all play for the same club, so they know and understand each other's game. But unlucky for Freddie Stewart, because I think he's a very good footballer as well, but I think I don't know if he's an attacking footballer. He's going to take all your high kicks. He's going to be solid at the back, good boot. But for me, that would be part of my spine. And I like the way their wingers are looking as well. You know, Freeman. I think he'll probably be an established winger. Feo Abusi when he does come back from injury, and it just seems like they're just starting to get those combinations right. If you sort of think back to what Borthwick's done over the last year or so, he's tried a lot of different players in different positions, and I don't think they've often gelled. To me, whilst they got behind a couple of times, they were still able to gel at the right time on Saturday. But I pretty much agree regarding Marcus Smith. Yeah, defensively, a real issue out on that flank.
And look, I think they're bringing. I think he's still trying to figure it out, right? Because I mean, obviously his back row changed this time round, and his back three changed. So he's still tinkering and still trying to figure out what his combinations are. He still doesn't know what it is yet, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what he's selected in 2 weeks' time against Scotland.
I will say though, he's got he's building some world class depth there, and Cunningham himself just offers them a different option. But man, there's a low what you get out of the likes of the twins. Sorry, just forgotten their names. And Ben and
Tom Curry. Yep.
Ben Earl, guys like that. Sam Underhill, if he's there or thereabouts, boy, you get a ton of work rate out of those guys. You know, Atoje looks like he's molding nicely into a follow me type leader. And, you think back to where their props were last year. They had some aging guys, Dane Cole, the guy, Dan Coles.
Marler.
They had our mate Marler. All of a sudden, they've brought these new young guys through. And, boy, they're looking good, not just for the rest of this tournament, but moving forward. I'm actually glad we played 3 tests against them last year and we're not playing them at the end of this year, if you know what I mean.
And Cunningham himself, it's very much like a New Zealand back rower, isn't he? He differs in his style to what England typically have, whereas like you see a Ben Earl in that they try and crash through, but they're more focused on crashing over the advantage line and recycling the ball, whereas you see the old style Jerome Kainos and Jerry Collins who always try and stay on their feet. They've been like your Satitis of nowadays. They're always trying to stay up. I guess it's more of probably a Pacific Island sort of style of play where they don't want to die with the ball. I think it kind of brings that sort of difference to an England back row, which is more of a just muscle and bash and crash the way through and recycle, get the next phase going. So that's really, really good for him. But I do agree with Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith, Beauden Barrett, 2 the same. Bench play. Last 30 minutes, that's where he's good.
From a bench player point of view, but Beauden Barrett's defense is way better than...
No. I mean, impacts come on at the 50, between the 50th and 60th minute, and that's when they're most impactful. You don't need your best players to play the whole game.
No.
Some players are just so much better at the end, and I feel like they're a similar mold, and I think New Zealand and England are the same sort of thing. It's like he's one of our best players. We've got to fit him in somewhere in the team. No, you don't. Just give him 35 minutes.
Case in point, Malcolm Marx. We've all been told he's one of the best hookers in the world, but Russia uses him off the bench, and he's as Cornflake said, so impactful. And if you look back at Beauden Barrett's career, he's probably played his best rugby off the bench.
Yep. Just quickly going back to Cunningham South, left on the bench tonight. The weekend. So I do wonder if Borthwick has the faith in him. Unfortunately, so we'll just have to wait and see whether we're actually going to see him, because at the moment he's been hidden away. Maybe he decided actually a wet game wasn't the right game for him. Maybe that was part of it, but we'll have to see on that one. But hopefully he
when his back row was cranking like it was, do you really want to change it? Like, again, it's one of those things. Don't make subs for the sake of making subs. If they're going all right and they're not looking tired, leave them on.
Yep. Let's just pull up the old player stats for the back row. Yeah, I mean, Willis 16 tackles, Tom Curry 11, Ben Earl only 6, Ben Curry 2. On the carries though, Ben Earl 12 carries for 63 meters. The only person who carried the ball more was Marcus Smith, 13.
Doesn't count.
13 carries. For England, that is. Wow, Ramos 17 carries plus 14 passes. Boy, oh boy, he injected himself into this game, didn't he? Jalabert, you might think you're the number 10, but not really. No, I'm running the game. Look, moving to Pont to 10. I don't agree with that move either. Look, he is the best player in the world as a 9. I fine. You've got a wonderful 9 on the bench, but again, you don't make that change. Sorry.
Same story, isn't it? It's the same story as the Bowden Barrett, the Marcus Smith. It's like, yes, okay, he's one of the best players in the world, but he doesn't have to play 85 minutes every single game, right? You can sub him off. Ligaric is a very good number 9 and brings a lot of impact off the bench. Don't just move someone else to a position that they're not acclimatized to for the sake of leaving them on the field. Just sub them off. Give them a break.
Yep. So to finish off then, we had Scotland versus Ireland, which again started a bit damp, but did dry out. And you can tell that by the number of kicks. 18 kicks for Scotland and 24 for Ireland. So only 42. I mean, look, half the number of quick kicks than the other two teams. A very, very different game. Look, in this game, Ireland dominated the first half, but didn't rack up the score. They made way too many mistakes. Should have scored. Should have been leading more than, 17-5 at half time. Scotland's only time, I think they entered the 22, they come away with a try. So Scotland were definitely breathing a sigh of relief at that point. In the second half, Scotland came out and really put Ireland under pressure. But Ireland defence bent, but wouldn't crack. And that meant that Scotland were taking threes. When Ireland got the ball in and got the territory, they came away with the tries. And in the end, a comfortable win for Ireland in that one, even when they lost 4 out of their 10 lineouts. So clearly their set piece wasn't working. And with 15 turnovers, 11 penalties for Ireland, that's not the stats we normally see from them. They definitely were not operating at full pace. But boy, is Pendergast going to be the Lions' number 10? That's kind of the question for me. Stephen Harris, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, listen, I've got to say that injury though in the 22nd, 23rd minute, the loss of Darcy and also Russell.
So Darcy Graham and Finn Russell, yep, 2 of the most experienced players in the Scottish team.
That's 3 Finns. We've mentioned tonight. I thought that injury at that time was pretty telling. Those are pretty 2 influential characters in terms of the way that Scotland play. But I almost felt like it was almost an older brother playing a younger brother, and the older brother just keeping the younger brother at arm's length, and probably not Ireland's best performance as well. Like you mentioned, a lot of ball, a lot of field position, but a lot of injuries to go. And it's because they want to play rugby. That's the way that they play, and they left the door open from Scotland. And despite Scotland bringing it back, was it to about 6 points or something like that, 17-11, you always felt Ireland would find another gear and kick away with this game, and that's exactly what's happened. Just on Prendergast, listen, I think I might have mentioned him about 2 seasons ago when he was playing under 20s for Ireland. I think I might have even messaged you, Paul, or put it on our chat group. I said, mate, have a look at this kid. I think he might be the heir apparent to Sexton at the time. And he's a player that looks like he's got plenty of time on his hands. He's a big lad, so he's not shy to take the ball to the line. He got hit in a beaut tackle. I think it was a double tackle. Boy, he got absolutely smashed back, but he got up. But when you consider how young he is, boy, the world's his oyster. So it's fair to say Ireland have found a replacement pretty much straight away. Is he the answer, given how up and down Marcus Smith is? I would imagine you'd say Finn Russell is probably has pretty much got a ring around him. You look at Wales. Well, they're not probably offering a heck of a lot at the moment,
especially at 10. Look, nothing against the guy who's playing 10, but he's a 12 being forced into the 10 jersey.
Yeah. And Gareth, well, who else was it? Gareth Anscombe, but he's injured at the moment. So it's very conceivable. Prendergast will tour with the Lions to Australia in 2025.
At the age of what, 20 is he, or 19 or something stupid? I mean, he's so young. Well, actually, I'll try and figure out his correct age while Cornflake gives his opinion on his performance.
You know what? There was a step bend around. You speak about Wales. I heard in the commentary of the Welsh game saying that 12 years ago, the last time the Lions toured Australia, there was 10 Welsh players in the starting lineup for the Lions. In a few months' time, would you be bold enough to say there'll be one Welshman in the starting lineup of the Lions? Maybe in the back row, a Jack Morgan or a Tom Raffel or something like that. But boy, in a decade, you've gone from 2/3 of a team being from one nation to lucky if they get a player or two in there, which is just crazy stuff. But on the Scotland game here with Ireland, I think Stephen's pretty much nailed most of the stuff in here. I think the injuries early really kind of killed the attacking threat of Scotland. Not that they showed much attacking threat, but we know when they do get going, they can score tries. And can I give a shout out to Duhan van der Merwe, because holy heckers, that try in the corner was just, I mean, the NRL's probably looking at that like, how much money do we need to sign that guy? Because, wow, that was a real NRL try. Just, you see him so early on the replays of that. Just, he knew straight away what he was going to do. He was going high. He was going for the corner. I watched it in real time as it happened. I was like, there's no way. He's nowhere near the try line on that. You see the replay, and it's like, that is insane. So he's a special talent. South Africa, will be kicking themselves.
Death of the power winger. Absolutely. No more power wingers around.
Yeah, but he's fast. Duhan is fast. Is Duhan a power winger?
Hell yeah.
Darcy Graham is certainly a speed winger. And Duhan is a bit of a blender because he is quick. Like, you see those tries he scored, or that try of the year candidate try he scored, he is rapid. Sure, he has power as well, but, less on that, we say the better. Bailey Barry, we know he's the best in the world right now. But, Scotland, losing players, cost them, couldn't fight their way back. Ireland, too professional, too experienced to let it streak away. But they did well. They come back. I don't think, again, we talk about this in the build-up to this tournament. Scotland always have that mental block going into a game. I think that mental block did them for 38 minutes. And there was no belief they were ever going to win this game in that second half. There was probably a bit of desperation not to look like complete and utter clowns and get smoked 40 points to 0 like Wales did in the first round. So a bit of respectability, a bit of desperation. But mentally, I don't think they're ever at the races in this one. And losing your linchpin talisman, who they pin so much faith on and so much pressure on to lead the team. You lose him, McDowell comes in. It was all down the sink. It was all going like the bath. And unfortunately, good fight back, but not to be.
Yep. So let's look a quick look at the table. We see Ireland had the perfect start, top of the table with 10 points. France were next in the table with 6 and a points difference of 42. England also has 6 points, but a points difference of -4. Scotland on 5, Italy on 4, and Wales on the solitary one with -50 points difference after 2 games. So look, it really is with that win for England over France, it really looks currently like Ireland at the top, with France, England, Scotland jinking it out there in a middle group. Italy, look, they could do, but at the moment, having played Scotland in fourth and Wales in sixth, and they've played they've got much harder games to come, and then Wales, they may pick up another losing bonus point at some point, maybe, but it's not looking like much more than that. Let's be honest, at the moment. They have a weekend off, so we're not going to preview the games yet. We'll preview those games next week on the show. But boys, we are only 4 days away from the start of Super Rugby. So, obviously, the actual rugby is kind of important, but what's even more important is clearly fantasy rugby. So I'm going to bring up my team first. Now, I will reserve the right to change my team for the weekend, depending on selections. Mm-hmm. But I'll show you who I've got at the moment. So let me just squeeze that up to try and make it a bit easier to see. I've got a front row of Bell. I've gone blank. Dear me, because it's not Takiaho, thank you, because his full name isn't there. And Numia in the engine room. Frost and Holland. Lucy's Hoskins Satutu, the top try scorer from last year. Gleeson and Eossi. Roygard, who I've put money on to be the top try scorer this year, and Edmed are my running the show. Levi Amua, look, surely the Crusaders can't misuse him again with Billy Proctor. Look, without the Barrett, Geordie Barrett in there, clearly he's got to take more of a role. Will Jordan, look, he wasn't around last season, but hey, he's in as my captain. Toole, another try scorer, and then the player that Cornflake and I talked about last week as being someone who's underrated, Sean Stevenson there. Nocturnal White says, I've got 2 Lucy's. Who cares? It's all about points. It isn't actually a real team I'm putting out there. I'm sorry.
But you got 3 6s in there as well, or 2 6s and a 7? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's about points. It's not about it's not about having a proper legitimate team. So and I've got 5.5 million spare, so I've got plenty. So I can easily make some because unlimited transfers in this one. So don't worry about making changes. You can make as many as you like. So I've got some cash there free as well to upgrade if I need to in any kind of positions. So Stephen Harris as the kind of the fantasy kind of novice or newbie. What do you think of my team?
Yeah, it's your team. I can't add much more to that, Paul. Obviously, you haven't, as Conflict previously said, you haven't gone for sort of like your most outstanding players. You've probably gone for players who you know where they're going to add high value and get across the line, or get some points, I should say.
Cornflake. I mean, look. I must. I've not played super. I've played football fantasy before or soccer fantasy, but I've not done rugby fantasy. Have I gone? What do you think? As Stephen says, have I picked value, or do you think, boy oh boy, Paul's gone for a name there, and that guy just doesn't get points. That's why he's cheap.
The fact of the matter is, I feel like there's too much money to be spent in this. Like 100 million. I made a team and had about near on 20 million left over, and I thought, I've clearly done something wrong here. So I made some adjustments, but I feel it's very easy to pick a very good team. You're not made into, you're not forced into making any 50-50s and getting rid of, a really good player and having someone who is, costing you very, very little. Good or bad as it is, it's probably good that way. It's easier for people to get involved without knowing all of the people in every single team. So that's a good. But look, there's no wrong answer in fantasy. There really, really is no wrong answer, because as much as getting points is what you want, it's also very easy to lose points. You know, throwing a not straight line out loses you a point, and that goes for your second rowers or the jumper and the thrower. Cards, losing scrums, giving away penalties. So at the same point of you want guy who's going to get you lots of points, you also want guys that aren't going to make any stupid errors and throw away, easy points. You can score a try, grab yourself 10 points, then throw a couple of crooked lineouts, lose a scrum, and there you go. Your try is null and void. So no wrong answer.
Frost picks up some cards, doesn't he? Oops. Come on then. Are you going to share your screen and show us your team?
Let's see if I can.
Of course you can.
Oh, goodness gracious me. I've got too many going on here. I will have to change my tab. No, I've got it. Here we go. Here's the real team. Can I bang that in? There we go. Right. So this, I can make this a little bit bigger for you all. How does that work? Doesn't make it any much bigger.
Think of it. Squeeze it a bit.
Hang on. Let me zoom it all in a bit.
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
I'm making it work. That's all that matters. Right.
You've agreed with me on the props. You've gone with Mia and Bell as well.
I have. Yeah, I've got them around the other way though, which is interesting enough. But again, try scorers. But what I like about guys like Angus Bell is they make a lot of meters. Big runners, big ball carriers, hard workers, and I think I'm going to get it from both of them. I did get concerned slightly earlier when Stephen was talking about the Blues injury crisis at hooker, and I thought, crap, I've got Ricky Telly in there, so hopefully he's going to be fit and ready to go for the season. And he talked about Dalton Papali'i missing the preseason as well. So, I reserve the right to make changes later on in the week.
On Thursday, Cornflake will be basically changing half his team.
Yeah, I was about to say, shouldn't you guys wait till around about Wednesday or Thursday to check out?
Well, you are unlimited. You're unlimited to changes until the game start, which is when they lock out. So this is my preliminary sort of side. So look, for me, Riccatelli does get points. He's a try scoring hooker, as the in the chat said, the hookers score a lot of tries. So going for one of them there is always a fun one. But to me, Arkoi, I think he's a bit of a dark horse, a good point scorer. I can't go past Charlie Cale. For me, he's a monster. Does he play? Will he start? You do notice there I've got a 6, 7, and 8 pool. Savia at 6, Papali'i 7, Cale at 8. So I feel like I've done that quite nicely in that regard. For the backs, this will get you excited. I've agreed with Freugaard, but I did steer away from the Ginger Edmed, and I went instead for Lolosio. And look, Brumbies to me are a team that's going to score a lot of kicks. I'll stand by my statement that New Zealand has no good 10s. So there you go. So you can take your 10 million McKenzie, you can take your 10 million Barrett, you can throw them down the river. I'll take Lolosio, thanks. Midfield, you can't go past Massey, Fiji and Drua. Again, chat was saying at home, these guys are impossible. He's a try-scoring machine. After that, I found it hard to pick a midfielder. Quintapire, I don't know if he'll be there on Friday. But we'll see how it goes with selection. Back three, ample choices. Jordan, Callaway, Narawa. Again, Narawa, one of the leading try scorers last season. I think Callaway might transform this season at the Waratahs. And how can you go past Will Jordan when you've got like 20 million left to spend? Easy.
So folks, we'll be pulling these up on Monday and seeing how we did. Hopefully Stephen Harris joins in with this for our weekly fantasy chat. Do join the league. As I say, I've put the link in the chat there. It's also on my Facebook page as well. But so let's look at the opening round of games. First up, the Reds have got a bye. Yes, they've been up in Europe playing Bristol and Ulster, so they're flying home. Sorry, destroying those teams, showing you that Super Rugby is much better product than
exactly
than what do you call it? Gone blank. Than the Premiership or the URC or any of those stupid Mickey Mouse tournaments.
What was it last week? 82-14 or something like that. 82-10, demolishing, absolute demolishing. This week was a bit closer, but still, mighty Reds.
So we kick off then on Friday night at 7 o'clock or 7:05 New Zealand time with the Crusaders versus the Hurricanes. Now, folks, you've all heard the injury list that we've seen from them, and you've also heard the results. The Hurricanes beating the Blues pre-season, the Crusaders losing to the Highlanders pre-season, and yet the TAB says $1.70 at home for the Crusaders, $2.15 for the Hurricanes. Wow. The Crusaders, who couldn't buy a win last season, got beaten by the Waratahs twice, home and away. The Waratahs, who only won 2 games all season, and yet they're going in with the Crusaders at $1.70. I'm sorry, but a couple of dollars is definitely going on to the Hurricanes, or at least the Hurricanes win is going into the multi here, because to me, the problem with the Hurricanes is their injuries, but I've just not seen anything from the Crusaders to tell me that they've changed anything.
Problem with the Crusaders is team and injuries. Like, except they're not as deep, I don't feel, as the Hurricanes are. Yeah, to me, look, TAB must be really sucking up to some Cantabrians or something, or maybe they run out of Canterbury or something. Who knows? But look, I feel that one's a little bit out of touch. Pre-season form, last season form, squads, it all kind of points towards the Hurricanes, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, for me, guys, the one obvious area where I think the Hurricanes will have an edge is in the back row. I think they've got a back row that can dominate that area. I think at $2.15, I think they're a good value bet. So I'll go for the Hurricanes on this one.
Mm-hmm. Next up, then we follow that with the Waratahs versus the Highlanders. And again, I'm not quite sure what's going on at the TAB. The Waratahs are strong favourites at $1.46 in this game. With the Highlanders on $2.65. As I mentioned a bit earlier, the Waratahs won 2 games last season, both against the Crusaders. Yeah. The Highlanders, they won 6 out of their 8 games. Okay, not perfect, not great, but they've also won the Crusaders this year. Things seem to be moving in the right direction. Again, to me, sure, the Highlanders are stronger this year because you've got all those players from the Rebels that have joined them, and it's a stronger squad. But I don't see why they're favourites to that extent. I just, again, so I'm from I think I see the value there in $2.65 for the Highlanders, so I'm looking at a narrow win for the Highlanders here.
Go for it. I'll go last.
One thing I will say, you mentioned last year, but this Waratahs has got a different look about it in terms of personnel. They've probably got a few guys that are a little bit maybe unavailable. I think Sue Ali might be unavailable for this particular game. On saying that, they'll still put a pretty good side on the paddock. So for me, this is actually a perfect opportunity for the Highlanders to hit them early. So I'm actually going to go for an upset in this one. I'm going to go for the Highlanders to take down the Waratahs. But I think that you mentioned the odds before. I can't believe the disparity. I was sort of expecting the Waratahs maybe to be light favourites at $1.70, but I thought the Highlanders would be around about $1.90, $2. So that is another again good value bet on the visitors.
On paper, the Waratahs have improved their team drastically this year. But to roll out the old cliche, rugby's played on grass. So I feel like this Waratahs team is going to be good, I think, round 5, round 6. I agree with what Stephen says. This is a good time to hit the Waratahs because I think they'll get better and I think they'll be good eventually. But I think they've had a few weeks, but I think they need longer, game competition level longer. And at home, sure, gives them a little bit more of an edge. I think if this was played in Dunedin, it would be a lot different story. But yeah, the massive discrepancy in those odds is huge. And look, I'm always going to say the Highlanders are going to win. So screw you, New South Wales. Go the Highlanders.
Who have the Tars actually picked apart from Suoli? It says hologram. I picked up. Sorry. So Andrew Kellaway is there now. Tanalea Tupu is in there. I'm trying to spot who else has come over from from the Rebels as well. But they have got Locks is the only place where they don't have a Wallabies internationals. Otherwise, they can put out a full Wallabies team. So they can start. They can have a 13 Wallabies start of those. So.
You want a full list of transfers that are in at the Waratahs from the Rebels? You've got Taliana Tupou, you've got Isaac Kalia, you've got Ethan Dobbins, you've got Angelo Smith, you've got Rob Leota, you've got Andrew Callaway, Darby Lancaster, and that's it from the Rebels.
Yeah, so there we go. Tupou, Leota, Lancaster, Callaway. Got a whole bunch. Yeah, some serious upgrade there. No, Jed Holloway left. I think is the no, Jed Holloway isn't there at the moment in that one. Next up then, another one that's going to confuse you on the surface. On Saturday, the first game up, Fijian Andrua versus the Brumbies. Now, the Fijian Andrua, who won every game at home apart from one against the Hurricanes, are at $2.25, and the Brumbies are $1.62. Now, your immediate response is, Paul, the TAB have gone nuts again. Maybe, but this game is in the HFC Bank Stadium in Suva, which is where they lost their only game last season to the Hurricanes. Right, they're not playing in the fortress that they normally play in. On this one, the reviewer says this is the Brumbies' first ever visit to Fiji as well. But boy, oh boy, that's with the Fijian Drew's record at home. But even though it's not at their main home stadium, they're still playing in Fiji. Sure, it will get hotter because, but even so, well, I'm leaning Fiji and Drua, even though I think I should be thinking Brumbies, and I don't know why. I think it's about that ground, but Cornflake. Am I right? Leaning Drua here.
I think it's a little bit of soft spot in your heart, isn't it? You want them to do well.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see the Brumbies do well this year as well. But look, I want a great start for the Drua. We've not seen huge changes from them. I think they're going to be pretty well settled, pretty well ready to go, as are the Brumbies. I think this could be a really, really cracking game. I hope it's a really cracking game. But yeah, I'm with you. Stuff it. I'm leaning with the Drua. I want to see the upsets. I want to see Super Rugby kick off and people look at it and go, wow, I didn't expect that. This game to me is going to see 6 forwards score tries for the Brumbies, and the Drua are going to win it by 4.
This was 28-20 in Canberra, so it wasn't even a blowout last year for when the Drua were away. Mr. Harris, your thoughts?
Listen, I think the Brumbies are deserved favourites because they were a semi-finalist last year.
Yep.
They've had a pretty good preseason. They had a 36-all draw with the Waratahs on the weekend in a place called Bowral. Don't ask me where that is. I've got absolutely no idea. But what I do know, they played there because it was 35 degrees. So obviously they are hard. Yes, exactly. So they obviously went there to try and have some sort of acclimatise to what they're going to get to on Saturday. Fiji and Drua, I've only really seen them in one preseason game, and that was a pretty scratchy effort against LA, wasn't it, from the MLR, where, to be brutally honest, it wasn't much of a game. I think if you go, listen, I think the Drua is one of those sides. If you get them early, I think it's the best time to knock them off, because I do believe they are one of those sides that probably gets a little bit better. So I'm going to go for the visitors in this one, but once again, it is a good value bet if you want to go the other way.
There you go. Now that with the early, get them early, and the fact they were playing in 35 degrees before, Stephen's got has got me as persuaded me. So I'm putting Brumbies in the multi for this week. Blues versus the Chiefs. The Blues at $1.40, the Chiefs at $2.75. Look, I think the champions at home I'm going to predict a Blues win again here for this one. it'll be interesting to see what the squads look like on Wednesday or Thursday when they come out. But for now, having not seen the squads, I'm going with the champions at home.
I'll tell you what, this has got banana skin written all over it. In my opinion, this is a new year. I know it was a preseason game last weekend, but the Blues rolled out their top side in the second half, and quite frankly, there's a couple of those players that just look really out of form. So I think Stern Vern's already got a couple of selection headaches in terms of where he goes. I think you'll probably see Bowden Barrett at fullback simply because Stephen Perofeta is still out injured, probably Plummer. There'll be obviously a change in the midfield at second five. Bryce Hem no longer there. He's retired, so you're possibly going to see AJ Lamb and Rico Ioane together. So a completely different new combination. And I think this is going to be a Chiefs side in 2025 with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be still pretty sour about what happened last year in Super Rugby, going to Eden Park twice and getting found out twice. Once again, I look at one of these games, and this is probably the best time to hit the Blues. It wouldn't surprise me if there's an upset in this particular game. And guys, that's the way I'm going to call it.
Wow.
Ooh, intriguing start. Look, I think, to me, when you get a close game like this, home advantage counts for a lot. And to me, that's going to be a bit of a swayer. Sure, it's only up the road. I know it's not far, but I still think the Blues, although Super Rugby doesn't get great support, that playing at home makes a big, big difference to these sort of sides. So, look, that sways a little bit for the Blues for me. As much as I'd love to say, because of the way the Highlanders win in preseason, that it means a lot, and we learn so much from preseason, and we can take that straight through. We know that's an absolute load of wobbles, so we'll just disregard that completely. I think the Blues will hit their straps. I just don't know about the Chiefs. Like you say, this to me a lot, like Paul said, comes down to what team is actually going to get put out on the field. Who's fit, who's ready, who's up to it. And we'll find that out very quickly. 30 minutes into that game, I think we're going to know how these two teams will be set for the early part of the season. But yeah, for me, Blues, but I think they'll be a bit by a whisker. McKenzie to miss a kick to win the game in the 82nd minute.
Already, we haven't even started the season yet, and already being down on your favourite player in the league. Finally, we've got the Force versus Moana Pacifica. The Force are the shortest favourites of the whole weekend, which, let's be honest, this is the only time that's going to happen this season at $1.36. Moana Pacifica at $3.05. And look, you've got to, at home. You got to. I think you got to back the Force with that one, because teams do find it hard with all those time zone changes. So yes, I'm going to back the Force. To me, this one purely comes down to home advantage. The Force in Auckland, I back Moana Pacifica, but over in Perth, I'm backing the Force with this one.
This is, the home advantage again, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? But I'm really keen to see what this Moana team plays like. I think they're a little bit more of an unknown this season. I think they should and could be a lot better. Again, early doors going over to Perth could be, it's definitely a tough start, but I'm hoping that they're going to hit the ground running, as they say, and put up a bit of a good fight, scare the Force a little bit. I think they could win this. But I will side with you and go the Force could win it, should win this one. But I don't think it'll be comfortably. I think both sides will be, have a lot of poor parts about their game. So other teams will be watching this for future fixtures for sure about where to attack these teams. So I think we're going to see a lot of areas where they'll have weaknesses.
I think this is the money value bet of the weekend. I'm actually going to go for Moana in this game. I think they're going to hit the ground running. I think this is possibly the strongest squad that they've picked in their inception. I think they'll be inspired by Ari Savia, and I think they'll cause an upset. I kind of look at the Western Force side, and it still, to me, looks more like a tradesman-like side. You obviously throw in Kurtley Beale, who's going to be going around for these guys again. But I kind of look at their squad. They've obviously brought in Donaldson. They've bolstered it in a few areas, but I mean to say they're not a squad that scares the living daylights out of me, and I don't think they'll scare the living daylights out of Moana either.
Well, there you go. So I'm going against the other two. I think Corvette went with me in the end. So my multi is at $17.57 with those five. So boy, oh boy, if that pays off, you've got to say that that'd be a nice one. Look, all of $2, folks. Please do gamble responsibly. Do not gamble anything you cannot afford to lose. On this one, we just do it for a bit of fun. On here, we don't do this to try and pay the bills. Let's be honest with that one. Any final things then to wrap things up?
No, just looking forward to Friday night. Couple of games to look forward to, and they're all kind of spread out nicely, aren't they? And some good times. No, it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. Looking forward
to good to get the season. It'd be good to not be up at the middle of the night to watch rugby, right? To watch it in our own time zone for once. There should be a good competition. I'm looking forward to how we see these new players, new teams, right? New year, all the new stars. Bring it on. Cool.
So, folks, stay safe. Join us again next week at Monday at 8 p.m. When we'll review the Super Rugby Round 1 games, preview Super Rugby South Round 2, and also preview the Six Nations Round 3 as well. So do join us for all of that next Monday at 8 p.m. on Facebook or YouTube. And also don't forget you can catch us as a podcast as well as Search New Zealand Sports Radio.